What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Sports here. I'm back with another video, and as you can see by the title, I'm going to be talking about my team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the topic that's been going around since about a month ago, maybe even before that, people looking ahead to the future at next season. Do the Leafs need to move forward? Do they need to make a trade? How are all these young guys going to fit into the roster? We're just going to toss around some general ideas in this video. Now, if you're new, at the time making this video, I'm pretty close to 700 subscribers. So if you're new and you enjoy this video, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Help me get to 700. Help me get to 1,000. It's the road to 1,000. Thank you guys for supporting. If you're a subscriber currently, I really appreciate it. And if you're new, thank you for even taking the time to click on the video. So yeah. Also, I have been putting my social media links, my Facebook, my Twitter, and my new Snapchat for the channel. So if you want to go ahead and follow those, you can do that as well. So yeah, let's get right into the video. So as we all know, the Toronto Maple Leafs had a pretty impressive season this past season, making it to the NHL playoffs. Unfortunately, they lost to the Washington Capitals in the first round, as we all know. And you know what? I think they proved to a lot of people that maybe it is time to take that next step. And of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs signed Patrick Marleau, so it kind of kick-started the conversations all over again. And the Leafs were looked at now as a team that's no longer necessarily rebuilding and, you know, trying to find pieces to make it. It's like a kind of, are the Leafs actually really going for it now with this Marleau signing? A lot of people dislike the deal. I don't mind it. I think there's some fans that like it. But it's also a discussion, you know, for this video, because this video is basically going to be based around whether or not I think the Leafs should make a trade or what's going to happen with the extra forwards that the Leafs have. So we're going to also go through some prospects that people have been already saying are on the team and that are saying that deserve to have a spot on the team. And, you know, some people make some valid points, but I've also got points to back up why maybe their spot isn't necessarily set in stone on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So first off, let's just talk about the line combinations and what I personally think is going to happen. I think a lot of people would agree with me. Defensively, I kind of did some research to see what people think the pairings are going to be, because I was kind of on the fence about who I thought should make the, you know, the bottom pairing, but I have my own opinion for that as well. But first off, the first line is probably going to be Austin Matthews with Patrick Marleau and William Nylander. I know Zach Hyman has been a guy that goes and gets the puck for Matthews. You could see that combination come, you know, in the season if the Marleau thing doesn't work, but I think Marleau was brought in to work with Matthews. Now, the next two lines could arguably be the second line, but the second line is probably going to be Mitch Marner, James Van Riemsdyk, and Tyler Bozak. The next line is probably going to be Brown, Kadri, and Komarov. We've seen that combination together as we did with the Marner, Van Riemsdyk, Bozak line. And the fourth line is probably going to be the newly acquired Dominic Moore, and he's going to play with Matt Martin and Zach Hyman. A lot of people probably won't agree with having Hyman on the fourth line, but really him working with Dominic Moore could be something that could really work. Now, I'm not saying that Hyman can't move up and play with Matthews, but then you're also knocking somebody else down, and if another line's working, Hyman may have to stay on the fourth line because Marleau's not going to drop too much, and I think the goal is to have him play with Austin Matthews. Now, quickly, the defensemen, we heard Len Morello say that he wants Hainsey in the top four, so the top four is probably going to be Riley Zaitsev, Gardner, Hainsey, and then your bottom pairing is probably going to be Carrick, and a lot of people are saying Marinson, but I would really like to see Travis Dermott move up, and we'll explain the defense here in a couple minutes. I don't want this video to drag on too long, but I'm just giving some ideas here. And I'm sure a lot of people have said these things before and probably agree, and if you disagree, let me know. In goal, obviously, is going to be Freddie Anderson, and Curtis McElhinney will be the backup. But this is not the point of this video. We are going to talk about the Leafs needing to trade for a defenseman that everybody's been talking about. Just to give a little bit of a background, I was one of the people that said around mid-season that the Leafs should trade JVR for a defenseman. I was completely wrong because, yes, they needed a defenseman, but they also needed JVR as well. I also made a video on the Patrick Marleau thing and asked people, you know, does this mean another move is coming and is somebody going to get dealt? So the first thing that everybody thought was going to happen was James Van Riemsdyk getting traded. Personally now, I agree with some other people saying that maybe Van Riemsdyk shouldn't be traded. And the reason I say that is because why not have more goal scorers on a team? And you might see the Leafs do something like Lamoriello did when we acquired Grabner, what was it, like 2 years ago, when he basically said, okay, these guys aren't making the team. It's not really high-end guys. I'm just going to ship them all off to the Islanders, and we're going to get Grabner. And realistically, the deal kind of worked. The only thing is I believe Christopher Gibson, the goaltender, he might have a pretty decent future, but we'll have to see about that. So, the guys that I think are on the outside looking in, you're looking at a guy like Kasperi Kapanen, which kind of hurts to say because I would love to see him move up. You're looking at guys like Josh Levo, Nikita Soshnikov. A lot of people would like to see Kirby Reichel move up. Unfortunately, I'm not even sure if he'll ever make this team. Some people are saying Miro Aaltonen could, impress some people. I mean, Eric Fair, if he doesn't get dealt, he's a decent backup option to play as a centerman or even as a winger in the NHL. But there's a lot of names there that aren't probably going to make the team. And a guy like Josh Levo has an NHL shot, and a guy like Soshnikov has an NHL shot, and another guy I didn't mention was Freddie Gauthier. The problem with him is, because of Dotchin, I believe, in the AHL playoffs, he was hurt, he had a leg injury, and he probably won't be actually game ready until probably January, because you got to think of recovery time plus time for him to actually get on the ice. Then you got to think about all the training and all that comes with it. We may not see Freddie Gauthier in the lineup. The Leafs also have a decent young crop of defensemen now after drafting Timothy Liljegren. Then we have Borgman and Rosen. Of course, I probably said both those names wrong again. I got a lot of people from Sweden correcting me. Thank you very much. Trust me, I'm not saying that to be sarcastic. I forget how to say these names sometimes, and you guys helped me out a bunch. Thank you very much. You know who you are. I believe, Elvin, you're one of those guys. But, yeah, so, we have them. We also have Dermott, like I said, who can make the team. Marinson, Marchenko. I believe we still have a chance at Nielsen coming up. Hell, some people even think Valiev might have a chance of coming up and doing something. So the Leafs don't exactly have the worst defensive depth. And with the forward crop that they have, they don't really have to make a move as desperate as, I thought even as, soon as last month I was thinking, oh man, I would really love to acquire a defenseman. You have to think of the pieces that you lose. So if the Leafs were to trade JVR, that's a huge hole. Yeah, Marleau fills some of it, but JVR and Marleau can both score goals. You lose a guy like Bozak, that's good center depth who actually just had an amazing season. So, you bring in a guy like Eric Fair possibly. You don't know if he brings production, probably not as much as Bozak. You trade a guy like Komarov, you're losing a penalty killer, a guy that brings grit to the team, and a guy who can pop in 15 goals. So you lose any one of those guys, and your team is obviously at a disadvantage. They're not like a huge part of the team. I would argue Van Riemsdyk is, but you have to remember, those guys play a role in how the team plays going forward. And the funny thing is I was one of those people that were like, oh, well, yeah, let's trade one of them, get a defenseman. I'm sure we can get something back. But now I look at something like packaging maybe a pick, maybe Levo, unfortunately, and hell, I mean, could Kapanen get dealt? I don't know. Bozak comes off the books, I believe, next year. Komarov maybe as well. I'm not too positive. But you can live with keeping all those guys on the team and figuring out a way to acquire a defenseman without moving any high-end prospects or even a first-round pick. You also have to remember the cap situation. Connor Brown still needs a deal. The Leafs aren't in cap trouble, and I know a lot of people have been frustrated by that, but I believe they're not in cap trouble. There's a lot of, people who are making great articles showing the cap issues and, how it's being resolved. The Leafs will use the LTIR as well. Because they can, because of Horton and Lupul. So that issue won't happen at all. The main point of this video, and I want to ask you guys, and that's what I'm trying to do with this new segment and this new setup that I have here, is what do you guys think is going to happen? Do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to make a move? Are they going to grab a defenseman? Who do you guys think can make the team that I said wouldn't make the team? Could Matt Martin lose a spot? Could Komarov or Bozak get dealt? These are all questions that I'd love for you guys to answer, especially you fellow Leaf fans. It'd be great. But if you're not a Leaf fan, I'd really like to hear your input as well. But my main point here is I just don't know how the Leafs you know, could make a move to bring in somebody without really losing a piece that they could use. And I know that sounds so, you know, cliche or whatever, but losing JVR, you're losing a big goal scorer. Bozak putting up points and a guy who works well with Marner, and that's the same with JVR. And Komarov is an all-around player that can play anywhere, basically, and kill penalties and whatnot, so you're obviously losing that. And hell, even Bozak with the face-offs. Those are the three names that have been discussed the most. And the defensive side of things, like I said, your top six, your six defensemen there aren't terrible. And if you bring up Dermott, you're bringing up somebody who could prove something. Or if one of the Swedish defensemen comes up and does something, excluding Liljegren, he's not ready this year. Probably for another 2 years. You never know what they could do. So you have to look at it that way. Andrew Nielsen could bring something to the table. The Leafs are going to be fine on defense, and this is something that even if you watch my other videos, I had no idea. Every time I'm like, yeah, just, you know, trade for a defenseman, trade for a defenseman. But now I'm kind of on the fence like, hey, I really like this forward group and I don't want to break them up. Should we go to maybe picks, maybe something else? Or what my main and final point will be, the Leafs could be a deadline team. And if they're, you know, good, which I expect them to be good, you know, they can pick up a defenseman at the deadline that has control for the next couple of years, or maybe even could just help us this year. You know, you may lose a little bit, but you're also dipping into a pretty nice prospect pool that they have there, and the Leafs can afford to lose a pick if they feel like they're ready to take another push. So like I said, let me know what you guys think. If you're new, please subscribe. I'd love to have more hockey conversations with you. Go support other YouTubers, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.